we can start now. So, as we planned to start a STL session series, today is the first day of the session. So, Mrinal will be taking the session, and after this session, we will be having a contest on Codeforce's platform starting from tomorrow, that is 1st February, and it will continue up to 7th. And it will be like a long challenge, and the questions given there will be for beginners only. And according to the topics that are covered today, the questions will be there. So, best wishes, Mrinal. You can start now.
Good evening, everyone. This is Mrinal Khemka, a third year CSE student. Am I audible to you? Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. So I'm a CSE student, and I'm going to be your host for today's session on Introduction to the C++ STL. So let's get started. So STL is basically an acronym for Standard Template Library. Before knowing more about Standard Template Library, we have to know what is a template. For example, suppose a company wants a shorting function such as bubble short or quick short or a selection sort for different data types, so they have to write same thing for multiple times for different data types. So this reduces the code reusability. Rather than writing the same thing multiple times, we can use a shorting function and can pass data type as a parameter. This is nothing but a template which we define in C++. So let's have an example of what is a template that is defined in a C++. Here we are using the same thing for two different type of data type. If we don't use a template, then we have to write the same thing multiple time for integer and character type. Here we are passing integer as a parameter in our template that is defined here. Here we are checking two values and comparing them and then giving an output which is greater or max value. For example, we are calling my max and passing integer as a parameter, and then there are two parameter value which is 3 and 7. This will return an output of 7 as 7 is greater than 3. Similarly, we are in second part we are passing a character data type as a parameter in which we have two values g and e. In this function, g will be printed as g alphabetically is greater than e. So this is an example of how a template works. Any one of you have any doubt related to template? Hello? Hello?
No, you can continue.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. So let's get know more about what is so let's get know more about STL. So So STL is an acronym of a standard template library. It is a set of C++ template that provides generic classes and functions that can be used to implement data structure and algorithm. STL can be are basically predefined algorithm that are more powerful and very useful when it comes to the competitive programming. Generally, a competitive programming is of very small duration, such as for 2 to 3 hours of duration. When we and problem in such competition contains a multiple implementation of algorithms such as sorting, searching, etc. If we sit and write algorithm for everything, it will take a longer time. So this time can be reduced by using STL, as it has predefined complex algorithms and data structures, and hence it is one of the most popular library that programmers generally use for competitive programming. So let's see first what is an algorithm header in C++ STL. So STL provides different types of algorithm that can be implemented upon any of the container with help of iterators. Iterators are basically the pointers that points on the memory that points on the location at which memory is allocated. These are basically the pointers in STL. Thus, now we don't have to use complex algorithm. Instead, we can use built-in functions that are provided by the algorithm header in STL. As I've discussed already, algorithmic functions in STL works on iterators, not on containers. Thus, algorithm can be used on any type of containers, which we are going to know more, which we will going to know more about containers after this algorithm header in C++ STL. The use of algorithm header in C++ STL reduces the time, effort, and also increases the reliability as we have to write a shorter code. For example, let us see this binary search code. This is a simple binary search code written in C++. Here we are binary search generally works on a shorter data. Here we passes a key which which we which we find which binary search basically finds a key in a shorted data by dividing the array into two halves, and it compare the values from the mid position. If the key at mid position if the value at mid position is greater than the key, then it will search the key in first half. If the value at the midpoint is less than key, then it will search in second half. It basically works on divide and conquer algorithm that most of the second year students I think know. So this algorithm can be implemented in STL by using a single statement, which is binary search, and passing the starting and last position and a key value. Here I forgot to give a key value. Let's see how it works. Hmm. Can you see my screen? Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
it is
yes.
visible.
Okay. So this is a binary search algorithm defined in C++ STL package. Here I have defined, and in this program I have defined an array A which has n number of values inside it, which I am going to take during a custom input, and a key value which is k. Here I'm passing the starting position which is a, and the size of my array which is a plus n, and a key value which is k. So this is the data that I'm going to pass. Here you can see that I am passing a sorted array, as binary search works on a sorted array, which is generally on ascending order or non-decreasing order, more precisely. Here you can see that it gives an output of 0, as 7 does not lie, as our function binary search doesn't find 7 in our data. So it prints an 0, that means which is false. So let's see, we give a 4. So now you can see that it prints a 1. So as we can see that 4 exists in our custom input, so it prints 4 input, it prints 1, as we can find 4 in our given data. This is how a binary search works works in C++ STL. So let's see another C++ function, which is short. A short function is basically shorts the data in ascending or in shorts the data in a given range. There are two variations of short function which we are going to know in detail. A short function takes two input parameter, which is starting iterator and ending iterator. It sorts defined by the iterator of starting position. For example, for example, this you can see this code. Here I'm passing an array which contains value 2, 1, 3, 5, 4, and 7 in short function defined in C++ STL. So when I run this code, you can see a shorted data has been printed out, which is 1 to 6. Now you can even pass your own function to print the data according to what you want or by using a compare function. Here I have shown you. Here I have wrote a compare function here. It sorts the data in descending order. You can write anything according to what you want or how you want to sort your data. Here you can see that data is sorted in descending order. You can sort what you want or according to what is the need of the program. But you have to remember that the compare function must be of boolean type, as we are comparing a two values. So this is how a short function works in C++ STL. Now you can see there is a partial sort in C++ STL as well, but this doesn't use mainly. So I'm just giving you about how it works. So a partial sort in partial sort we passes three parameters which are start, middle, and end. Basically, it sorts the range from start to end in such a way that elements before middle are in ascending order and are smallest element in the range. That means if we have that means for let's see. Mhm. Let's see here how it works. You can say partial sort. We are going to discuss first what is partial sort, and then we are adding a compare function in it as well. So here my A is the starting position, and let's write the mid position, which is A of 3 and A of 6. So this is basically going to sort the data from 0 to 3 in ascending order, and then after that it will not going to sort anything. So mm, you can see that the first three elements get sorted, and after that it doesn't sort the data. This is how a partial sort works. Partial sort basically sorts the first half of the middle, and it gets the and the value before the middle are always going to be smaller than the value before the after the middle position, middle to end. This is how partial sort works. You can even add your own compare function inside it. For example, let's add the compare function that I have defined before. Hmm. So this is going to sort the data in descending order for partially. You can see that they sort the data in partial order for the middle position, which is 654, and then after 1 2 3. This is how a partial sort function works in C++ STL. Now let's see how the next function, which is upper bound and lower bound in STL. Upper bound function is basically upper bound function also works on a sorted data. It returns an iterator to an element in a given range, which is greater than the given, which is the value, which is the key that we pass inside it, greater than the value that we are going to pass inside it. For let's see this, and the lower bound function is basically works same as upper bound. It returns an iterator to the element in the given range, which is not less than the given value, which is not less than a given key that we pass inside the upper bound function. So let's see how it works first. So you can see that I have written an array which contains value, which contains multiple occurrence of 5, 6, and 7. So I have told you before that the upper bound and lower bound function works on sorted data. So I have sorted the data already, and now let's see. So here I am passing the starting position of an array, which is A, and the ending position, which is A plus A. That means basically the size or the range of the array that I'm passing inside it, and I'm searching for lower bound of 5, lower bound of 5, and here I am searching for the upper bound of 5. Lower bound of 5 basically returns a value not less than 5, which is here. Lower bound will be going to return a value which is not less than 5, and upper one will return a value just greater than 5. So the value that going to be printed out would be 5 and 6. As you can see here, so the output you can see that the output that it prints is 5 and 6, as 5 is just not less value, just not less than 5 itself, and just greater than value is 6. So any one of you have any doubt related to upper bound lower bound function? Hello?
Hello.
Huh? Yep.
Can you repeat
What
the
is the utility of giving the header file algorithm?
Algorithm is basically a header file that is defined in STL. If we don't write algorithm header file, we can't be able to use the functions that I have discussed till now. So it is basically using, so basically algorithm is a header file. So basically that every function that I have discussed right now are defined inside the algorithm header file. So we have to include it inside it.
Can you repeat the
Okay.
lower bound and upper bound? Actually, I was disconnected.
Okay. So lower bound and upper bound functions are defined inside an algorithm header file in C++ STL. It works on shorted data. Basically, it works on shorted data. Lower bound function returns the value which is not just less than the value that we want, that we from not just less than the given value or key value. Upper bound function returns a value which is just greater than the key value. For example, you can see that I am passing an array A which has 8 values inside it, and I am searching for a lower bound of 5, given key value 5, and here I am searching for upper bound of 5. So lower bound of 5 means which is just not less than 5. So the value which is not just less than 5 is 5 itself. As you can see, there are multiple occurrences of 5, and here upper bound will return a value which is just greater than 5, so it will going to print 6, as you can see here. Can you see now? Can you
Yes,
understand now?
I've understood. Thank you.
Okay, so let's continue with our presentation. So so any one of you any doubt related till now in upper bound lower bound sorting function or binary search function? Hello?
I don't think there is any more doubt. You can continue.
Okay. So now let's see non-modifying algorithm. Non-modifying algorithms are basically those algorithms that doesn't modifies our containers. That means doesn't modify our arrays or except arrays or vectors or any container such as stack, queue, map, heap, etc. A count function basically counts the multiple occurrences of a given key value. For example, let's see non-mod. You can see here that here a here and here an array having integer values of integer values, and we are going to count the number of occurrences of 5. Here the number of occurrences of 5 is equal to the 4. If we write this code for, let's see this.
Hello.
Yep. Hello.
Sorry to interrupt. sir, what is the meaning of this double L before the array?
Actually, it's a macro which I'm using to write long in direct type. So I'm
Oh,
basically shorting.
okay,
Okay, have
okay.
you understood?
See, in the
Thank you.
top, it is
Yes,
defined
yes.
that as long int, we will use ll instead of long int.
Okay.
Is it clear now? Hello.
Yes, yes, yes.
So this function is going to return the number of occurrences of 5 in the given range, which is okay. Sorry. So this function is going to return the number of occurrences of 5 in a given range as we have defined in array. So say you can see that the number of occurrences of 5 is 4, as it has printed also that the so as you can see the output is also 4. So this is the number of occurrences of 5. As you can see, this there are four values of 5, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is how a count function work. Now let's see equal function. Equal function basically compares the two objects and returns the value true or false if they are equal or not according respectively. So let's see how this works. So you can see there are two input array. One array contains value 1 to 8, and another array contains a negative value -1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And there it does not have a 5, and then 6, 7, 8, 9. So here we are comparing two arrays. You can see that equal to array requires three parameters, which is first one, that is starting iterator of first starting iterator of the range in which we want to compare the value, and v1 dot end, which is our ending iterator shows the range of our that shows the range of our input array. And then second and the last parameter is our starting position of the second array from which or where we want to compare. You can see that we are comparing here value from of input array from 1. Here we are comparing this value with this value. So you can see that in this array from here 5 doesn't exist in second input array. So this is going to give an output of value 0, as both the arrays are not equal. Is there any doubt related to equal function? Have you understood what is an equal how equal function work? Hello.
Yes, understood.
Okay, so next is basically a mismatch function that we are going to know. Mismatch function basically compares two object as like that of equal function, but it returns the iterator to the first position where the mismatch first occurred. For example, if we see the same data that we are passed in equal function, here the iterator is going to be pointing to the value 6, as 6 is the position, seventh element is the position where the first mismatch occurs, as it does at the second since the second array does not have a value of 5. So this is how a mismatch function work. Let's see. You can see that this is how a mismatch functions work. we pass to just like equal function, we passes three parameter. First is starting iterator of first input array, second is the ending at iterator or ending position of second first input array, and third parameter is the starting position of the second input array, and it compares the value from second position, which is from here. In this example, this value in this example it is comparing from the second position. So this is the value that is going to be compared with this, and you can see that the fifth 5 is not present in the second input array. So the position at which first mismatch occur is 1 2, which is seventh element, which is 6 itself, which is element 6 and position 7 from indexing from one indexing, or sixth element from zero indexing. So this is how a mismatch work. Now let's see. Now let's see numeric algorithms. Numeric algorithms are basically of three types, which is iota, accumulate, and partial sum method. Iota basically assigns the vector from starting iterator to the ending iterator with a given value, and increases the value one by step. For example, if let's see, let's see an example. This is an example. You can see that you can see this, you can see in this example that we are passing a vector of size 10 with an starting iterator of iterator position, which is v dot begin to v dot end, and we are initializing value from 10. You can see the output that the element that is going to be initialized assigned to the vector v is 10, 11, 12, 10 to basically 19. This is how iota function work. Now let's see the next function, which is accumulate. Accumulate function basically accumulates or sum up the value from from starting position to the ending position, and gives the result in object type result. In this object type result or a object type result, this is a parameter that we are going to pass, in which the result is going to be stored. So let's see an example. So you can see that here an example accumulate function, how accumulate function work. Here a vector v is defined, in which which contains a value from 0 to 9. The result from 0 to 9, and we are using an accumulate function where we passing our vector and a result integer data type, where in result parameter, where we are going to store our accumulate value. So accumulate basically, I've told you that it sum ups the value. So so it will give a result of 45, as sum of value from 0 to 9 will be 45. So this is how an accumulate works. Now next is partial sum method. Partial sum method isn't going to be a useful method as but still I will tell you how it works. So a partial sum method basically sum up the value from iterator, from first from the sequence of data that we passes, and gives the result in the operator that we are going to be see pass. Basically it gives the result store partially, and that's how it works. So it sum ups the value from partial positions. So this is how it works. You can see the here an example. So let's see. So this is the numeric algorithm that is defined in C++ STL. Now let's see min max operations in STL. Min max functions in STL. Following are the functions that will be that we will be covering. A method basically returns the maximum value from the two value that we compare. For let's see. This is This is basically a method in C++ STL. It compares the two values and gives the output which is bigger value. So you can see that from 9 and 10 the bigger value is 10. This is how a max method works. Now let's see mean method. Basically mean method works as same. It gives the minimum value from the two value. Which is 9. Here the minimum value from two value is 9 and the maximum value is 10. That's how max and mean method works. Now let's see max element method. Max element method basically finds the maximum element from the vector output input. For example, let's see example. You can see that we are passing a vector in max element function, and it will going to return the maximum value that occurs inside it. Or let's see how it works. So basically here you can see that it is passing a vector inside. You can even pass a array, as I have told you earlier that that algorithm header in C++ still works on iterator, not on container. So any of the container can be so that means algorithm header in C++ STL can be work on any of the container. So let's see how it works. This will be going to return the maximum value, which is 10 from our array. So okay, I have reassigned the same thing, so I have to change the name of our variable. So let's change. So you can see the maximum value that the maximum value that the maximum element function has found in our array is 10, which is as you can also see here. Similarly, mean element function also works on range of range of a range of an element. So here you can see the same. So this is going to return a value of 1, as 1 is the minimum element inside our array Z. So it is going to return a minimum element of 1. So any one of you have any doubt related to max mean element or max mean function? Hello. So this is the max mean operations in STL. Now let's talk about containers in STL. Containers are basically, in simple word, can be described as an object that is used to contain data or rather a collection of objects. Containers help us to implement or replicate simple or complex data structures that are very useful, that are very easily like arrays, lists, trees, associate arrays, and many more. The containers are implemented basically on generic class templates. So, so the following are the most common containers you can see here, which are vector, queue, stack, priority queue, list, set, and map. So in this session, we are going to talk about vectors. So as vectors are basically same as that of array, but when it comes to array also works fine when we use to have implement sequential data structure or static order. We have to define its maximum size during its initialization. It cannot be, and it cannot contain an element greater than its maximum size. Now suppose if during the program execution we have to store elements for more than its size, then we have to, then more than its size, then it will be going to show an index out of bound exception, as we haven't initialized, as we don't have uh, much more memory allocation of our array. Moreover, if we have initialized an array for a thousand element, and we are inserting only 10 elements inside it, then there is also a wastage of memory. This can be overcome by dynamic arrays, but using dynamic arrays such as calloc, by using calloc malloc, it also has a problem that we have to reallocate manually for increasing or decreasing the size of the our dynamic array. This can be overcome by using a vector container in container of container in STL, as it get resized by its of your by its your own by as it gets resized by its own. So let's see some how vector container works in STL. So it's a syntax of vector inside STL. You can see here I'm writing defining a vector having integer data type, having a name of my vector. It's a name variable. You can define name. You can define any name for your vector. So this is how vector is defined inside STL. Or you have to, for using STL vector, you have to include a vector header file for it. So now let's see member functions of STL. So the first member function of STL is a pushback function. Pushback function is basically used for inserting elements at the end of the vector. If a type of object passed as a parameter in pushback is not same as that of vector, then an exception has been thrown. You can see a picture beside the content, beside the definition, how the vector works in STL. Here we are first passing here we are first inserting a value of 1, and then after that we are inserting a value of 4. You can see that the block of memory are created one by one at the end of the at the end position of the previous value, and so on. If we pass a value of 10, then it is going to be inserted after 8. So here a block of memory will be allocated. This is how a pushback function in vector works. Now let's see other important functions, which are insert and pop back. First, let's discuss what is a pop back function. Pop back function basically pops the element from the back. It removes the element from the back of the vector. Here you can see an image. Here you can see an image which contains which contains value from 10 to 6, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. Here we are popping the value from the back. After popping a value, the remaining of the value that remains inside the vector becomes 10, 20, 30, 40, and then 50, as we have popped the last value. So this is how pop function inside a vector works. Now let's see insert function. An insert function basically inserts the element in vector at any position where we want. We have to just give the position where we want to insert the element. Insert function are can be of variation, can be overloaded, as I have shown to you here. Here we are passing an iterator, an element, and count. Basically, a count function tells the insert function that we want to insert the element that number of for at from iterator position itr to the that number of occurrences. The insert the insert function after that I have told show you is going to insert a vector inside the another vector from iterator position itr. This is going to insert a complete vector inside another vector from itr position or itr pointer. This is how a insert function works. There are several member functions of vectors in STL, which are erase, size, swap, clear, size, empty, capacity, add, from, and back. Basically, erase function erase a particular value from the vector at given position. Size function resize function basically resize the vector from from a particular size to another particular size. This is how it works. This is how resize function work. A swap function basically by the name suggests it swaps the data from of two positions. For example, if we have an array contain if we have an vector containing value 10, 20, 30, and 40, and we want to swap the value 10 and 40, then the array will going to then the swap function will swap the first value and the last value, and the array and the vector after that will become 40, 20, 30, and 10. This is how a swap function works. The next function is clear function. Clear function basically clears the all data inside a vector. That means it basically destroys the complete basically destroys the complete data inside the vector. Now a size function. Size function basically returns the number of elements that is defined inside the inside our vector. And the capacity function basically tells how much elements that we can insert in a vector. That means it returns the memory capacity of our ram, and that means how much maximum element that we can insert in our vector. Next is add function. Add function basically gives the value at particular index. For example, if a vector contains a value of 10, 20, 30, and 40, and we want to get a value at index position 2, then it will return a value of 30. And then we have a front and back function. Front and back function will tell about the element that is in front of our vector, and a back function will tell the element which is at the back of our vector. This is basically the member functions of our vector in STL. So any one of you have any doubt related to member functions of vector in STL?
I don't think they have any more doubt.
So
If anyone is having any doubt about the topics that are covered, you can just unmute and say it or write in the chat box.
Yeah. Once you have used int n long in that long function, we have used long of n is equals to size of a by size of a of 0. Why have we have used that?
So it basically returns the number of elements that is inside our array. So size of z shows basically how our allocation of how memory allocation in RAM works is that it forms a array. How a memory allocation for array works is that it forms a memory block inside our array. So basically it returns the size of z. That means if the number of elements that is inside the array and the size of z 0, that means it will return the first value. So when we divide the size of z by size of z0 element, it will return the basically it will return the number of elements that we have defined inside our array.
Here, what will size of Z will return?
Size of z basically returns and basically returns the array's position where our block has been defined, and z0 will return the base address of the our first element. So
Okay.
dividing the size of z by size of z0 will return basically the number of elements inside our array.
Okay, bhai, understood.
Anyone of you have any other doubt? Hello.
Okay, so if none of you have any more doubt, there is a contest link that is posted in the chat box. So from tomorrow, the contest will be up to 7th of February. So you can, all of you can just participate in the contest. It's very beginners friendly and basic questions are there. So it will be easier for all of you.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Yes, everyone, thank you.
Thank you.
We will be ending the session now.
Thank
Yeah.
you.